As you all know, if you tuned in last time, I have been on the Boeing story for a long time because I am so offended that Dennis Muhlenberg is a free man who has more money than you and this entire audience and everyone in this studio are ever going to see in their lifetime, instead of like rotting in a man in the iron mask style prison, because that is where that guy belongs. So Boeing, hey, you have whistleblowers that said back when the MAX was killing people, this is not the end. This is not the end. The way that they are running this company is dangerous. So let's take a look here at a little NBC News coverage on this so you can visually see what happened to this plane.
Does that guy have a fake head on top of his real head?
That's a Mr. Potato Head of
Lester Holt
of an anchor.
Looks like a Klingon from the next
4
generation.
days after that mid-air decompression explosion on an Alaska Airlines MAX 9, Boeing CEO told employees in a safety stand-down today, "We are acknowledging our mistake." Looking at the gaping hole, "I've got kids, I've got grandkids, and so do you.
I would not put
this
them
stuff
on one
matters.
of our planes.
Every detail matters." The focus of the investigation, that door plug that blew out of the plane Friday, held in position using 12 stop pads and 4 bolts. But the NTSB says it may have shifted out of alignment. The bolts are missing. A lab analysis will determine if they were ever in place. Now, both United and Alaska Airlines say they found loose bolts and hardware in more grounded MAX 9s. NTSB Chief Jennifer Homendy. Would this suggest that this is a bigger problem than just one plane?
It certainly could. Right now, the NTSB is very focused on this aircraft. We want to determine how this happened.
Okay. All right. So they are investigating, and lo and behold, United, Alaska Air find loose hardware on some Boeing 737 MAX 9s after grounding.
How many? Some is very vague.
Some is a little vague. Oh, this gets better.
Several?
This gets better. I promise you, everyone listening to this is going to wind up only wanting to fly on an Airbus after this. United Airlines said Monday that it has found loose bolts on door plugs of several Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes during inspections spurred when a panel of that type blew out during an Alaska Airlines flight using that type of aircraft last week. Alaska Airlines later Monday said its initial inspections of the jets had turned up, quote, loose hardware, and that, quote, no aircraft will be returned to service, unquote, until formal reviews are complete. Quote, the safety of these aircraft is our priority, and we will take the time and steps necessary to ensure their airworthiness in close partnership with the FAA, Alaska Airlines said in a statement. The Federal Aviation Administration on Saturday grounded dozens of 737 MAX 9s after the panel blew out mid-flight on Alaska Flight 1282. Alaska has 65 of the MAX 9 planes in its fleet. United has 79, making it the biggest operator of the jet model. That's an airline I'm not flying. Quote, since we began preliminary inspections on Saturday, we have found instances that appear to relate to installation issues in the door plug. For example, bolts that needed additional tightening, United said in a statement. These findings will be remedied by our tech ops team to safely return the aircraft to service. Okay, so we have a little more video here of one of the whistleblowers who was an engineer at Boeing for a very long time, who came out and revealed a lot about what's going on in the Boeing factories that people should be really concerned about. And he's been saying for years, Boeing is going to wind up killing people.
Former Boeing whistleblower who testified in Congress about 2 fatal MAX 8 crashes fears Boeing's culture has not changed.
If things don't change, it's going to be a major tragedy, and it's going to be horrible for families.
With the MAX 9 grounded, United and Alaska canceled hundreds of more flights again today and expect to cancel flights through the week.
Okay. It gets better, folks. It gets better. Boeing Supplier ignored warnings of excessive amounts of defects, former employees allege. Weeks before Alaska Airlines' terrifying debacle, one of the aircraft's manufacturers was accused of systematically ignoring safety problems. Less than a month before a catastrophic aircraft failure prompted the grounding of more than 150 of Boeing's commercial aircraft, documents were filed in federal court alleging that former employees at the company's subcontractor repeatedly warned corporate officials about safety problems and were told to falsify records.
Oh, my God.
One of the employees at Spirit Aerosystems, which reportedly manufactured the door plug that blew out of an Alaska Airlines flight over Portland, Oregon, allegedly told company officials about an, quote, excessive amount of defects, unquote, according to the federal complaint and corresponding internal corporate documents reviewed by the Lever. According to the court documents, the employee told a colleague that, quote, he believed it was just a matter of time until a major defect escaped to a customer. I like that phrasing, escaped to a customer. Okay, so this is from the American Prospect. I got into this a little bit last time, and it's a big subject worth looking into. This article gives you actually a pretty good overview of how we got here, but this is from the American Prospect. Boeing 737 MAX incident, a byproduct of its financial mindset. The plug door that ripped off an Alaska Airlines plane only exists because of cost-cutting production techniques to facilitate cramming more passengers into the cabin.
Oh, that's what you're saying about, yeah.
The specific piece of equipment, a plug door that broke off a Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft during Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 from Portland on Friday night, in fact, illustrates many of the broader trends in the airline industry today. The desire to cram more passengers into finite space, the standardization of production across outsourced subcontractors, and the lack of oversight from federal regulators into these increasingly dangerous schemes. Many of these same problems led to Boeing's infamous 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019, which killed 346 people. Those crashes involved a new semi-autopiloting software that malfunctioned, forcing the planes to nosedive against the pilot's best attempts to correct course. And I just want to point out here, because this section of the article doesn't get into it, they didn't even tell these pilots it was on the plane. So the nose starts getting forced down. It's like a ghost in the machine. They had no idea what this was.
Okay, wait,
not only were they not trained, I'm talking about the 737 MAX that went down. Not only were they not trained, I think the first plane that went down was run by a company called Red Lion, I believe Indonesia. I could be wrong about that. I'm going off the top of my head. But Boeing blamed the pilots, and these poor pilots, man, they're flying, and all of a sudden, the nose is getting forced down. And they don't know why, because they haven't even been told about the system.
I have a question. Is it okay? The airline, if you're a pilot working for the airline, who is the airline supposed to tell you? Because the airline buys those planes.
Well, Boeing is the manufacturer. Boeing is supposed to tell you what's on this plane.
So, but what I'm saying is the manufacturer. So I fly for, I don't know, Red Line.
Right? Right. Red Line.
Boeing, I would think, would tell them, and then that company go, these new planes have something new in them. Wouldn't it be the responsibility of the airline?
Yeah, but ultimately Boeing has to tell somebody. Boeing has to.
Yeah, did they tell the airline? No.
No.
Oh,
they didn't tell them anything. These poor pilots were just sent up, and then they blame the pilots like foreign, right? They're foreign pilots.
Yeah, I told you it takes at least 3 foreign tragedies for me to equal one. I don't go crazy where it's like 10,000 Palestinians for one
Well, you
day,
know what? You're not wrong, because they kept letting that plane fly. And it wasn't until another plane load of people was killed with full knowledge. This is why I'm saying Muhlenberg. If Kurt, you go out right now and you even accidentally run over somebody, you're probably going to jail for manslaughter. This guy killed hundreds of people with full knowledge that these planes were not safe.
These are countries,
and he got a golden parachute.
These are countries where like they put too many people on one motorcycle, for example, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
a lot of outside bus seating.
Well, that's how he tried to spin it.
That's how I
choose start handing out some golden parachutes on those airplanes.
All right, Keaton for the win. All right, so All right, so this gets a little bit into it. A faulty course change pretty well describes Boeing, which went through a restructuring during the 1990s from an association of engineers to a firm run by Wall Street shareholders. This catastrophic path has led to another systemic crisis for one of the world's two major commercial aviation companies, underscoring the deterioration of Boeing's product quality by financialization, cost-cutting, and outsourcing. All right, so...
Hey, that's how we get our viruses.
So this is just symptomatic. I mean, this is why I think this story really says so much about the moment that we're in. Originally, Boeing was this company that took pride in being a company of engineers like your grandfather.
Yep.
Right? Pocket protectors and slide rules and precision, right? And we'll make money just by building a great plane. Then in 1997, they merged with a company called McDonnell Douglas, I believe they were called. And they had a much more Wall Street oriented business model. And that wound up overwhelming the old Boeing engineering model. They moved their headquarters
like the movie Wall Street, with Charlie Sheen's dad's company.
Kind of. And then they moved to Chicago because they wanted to be closer to financial services instead of being out here where you have the aerospace industry based. And that's how you got here. Because you can't, it's not like they're making fucking toasters. Like when you start cutting corners on planes, this is what happened. And when the MAX went down, you did have whistleblowers like, I forget his name off the top of my head, but the one we were showing from NBC, Ed Pearson, I think his name is, saying, hey, he started talking about things that were going on in the factories that were terrifying. He talked about how they weren't really paying enough crew to properly take all the metal shavings out after the plane would get constructed, and those metal shavings could potentially get into the wiring. He was talking about how tools had been found rattling around between panels. So
yeah, it's crazy. Imagine if the people who made our vaccines took these kind of shortcuts.
Imagine. Fortunately for us, the vaccines are safe and effective.
Boeing, take a lesson. There's some people doing their job out there.
Those excess deaths, I blame them on In-N-Out Burger.
I blame it on climate change, but Boeing can't blame this on climate change. This was their irresponsibility.
Which, by the way, if anyone's been tracking this, I still have not gotten my California In-N-Out Burger, which I love. I'm just making fun of In-N-Out Burger. Because you don't have one right by here.
I know.
And they don't deliver because it's a quality control issue.
I was really into it when I first came out here.
Yeah, Jimmy should have moved to a nicer neighborhood.
He should have moved to a better neighborhood.
I keep telling him that.
What? No In-N-Out Burger?
No In-N-Out Burger.
What the fuck?
I've told him a lot of times. This place is a dump.
Yeah, I get together.
No Jack in the Box, no In-N-Out Burger.
No, I'm sitting in the car with him and Steph. He's like, "Hey, Russ, I'm gonna take you to the best sushi place in LA," and I'm just like, "Okay,
can we get a Del Taco, please?"
Okay, fine. I mean, In-N-Out Burger, but okay, all right. You want to do sushi? So
people don't get it if you don't have it. I was mocked recently by my good friend Ari Shafir, former yeshiva student Ari Shafir. He was like, "Yeah, Kurt would always want to go to In-N-Out." Like I wasn't from here. Of course, I'm over it now.
I mean, I would have had it delivered, man. They don't deliver it.
No, they don't.
And so I'm carless. So in this town, man, I mean, you can't get anywhere.
You can't walk in the car. You can't
get anywhere. I can walk down to Ventura Boulevard,
call an Uber,
get a burrito, and that's about it. Yeah, I would have to take an Uber to In-N-Out.
I mean, In-N-Out can't do delivery. I mean, their brand is In-N-Out. You got to go in, you got to go out. In-N-Out Burger.
No time for the old In-N-Out, love. Just come up to read the meter.
You can't deliver it. No.
My Clockwork Orange peeps got that. All right, Keaton, you got anything to say about these planes falling out of the sky potentially?
No, I'm gonna leave it at my golden parachute joke. I think that's a good note to go out on.
Yeah, it's very, very George Costanza. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Good night, everybody. I'm not gonna beat that, so I'll leave it there.
Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.